Hi, friends. Welcome back to Shelby and the Book Club. I am Shelby Monet, and today I want to talk about a tweet that I saw that said that a book influencer told people in order to reach your goals, your reading goals, you should read or listen to audiobooks at 1.5 speed. You should read novellas and graphic novels because they're smaller, and skim over large paragraphs in books. And it bothered me for a lot of reasons, but it also sparked this video because one, I read a lot. I don't read as much as some other people or some other book influencers that I know, but I do read a lot. I think the average American reads like 5 or 12 books a year. I read at least 5 books a month. So I do read a lot more than the average person. And I know that a lot of times people think that, oh, because I read a lot, that they should read a lot. And it turns into things like that particular tweet. So I just wanted to talk about how I read so much, how I prioritize reading, why I read, and all of those things. And maybe to kind of make you guys feel like it is not a competition. You guys do not have to read as much as I do. Or maybe this video will encourage you to feel more comfortable reading at your own pace. So if you would like to hear it, here it go. Before we get started, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share. Our community here is growing and I want it to continue to grow. I love talking about books with y'all. And I love interacting with y'all. So, all right, here we go for real. Okay, I'm gonna put the tweet here up on the screen, just so that you guys can see it, so that I'm not quoting it completely wrong, like I usually do. But I want to start off with people that genuinely read a lot do it because they like it. I read a lot because I like reading. The urge in me to read is a lot stronger than my urge to do anything else. I would much rather read than do a lot of things. I skip eating sometimes because the book is so good. I enjoy literature. So for those of you that may be new to my channel and you don't necessarily know my story, a few years ago, I started reading again avidly. And when I say again, I mean, I was depressed. I was caught up in working. After college, because I had done so much reading for school, I had kind of lost my mojo in finding things to read for pleasure opposed to for academia, for academics. And to be honest with you, as a Black English literature major, although I enjoyed some of the classics, I got tired of reading Jane Eyre. I got tired of reading Dante's Inferno. I did not want to read Shakespeare anymore. A lot of the things that they had us read weren't as diverse as I would have liked them to be. I come from a household where reading is important. My mom let me roam her bookshelf. So like at home, I was reading Toni Morrison and Elin Harris and Walter Mosley. And then to get to school, and the only time I really read Black literature was to talk about slavery or our trauma. It was kind of disheartening. So there was a while there where I was like in my late teens, early 20s, trying to find myself working multiple different jobs, trying to find my place in corporate America, where I just wasn't reading anymore. And I wasn't doing a lot of things that I loved. So what was it? The height of 2020? Yeah, the height of 2020, right before the pandemic, I had decided that I was going to do the things that made me the happiest. Like when I was the happiest, what was I doing all the time? And I was reading. So that's how Shelby and the Book Club started. That is how Shelby and the Bookstore came to be, because I started doing the thing that I loved again, right? And I've learned a lot about myself reading again, right? One thing that is just true to me is that reading is deep in my soul. It is in the formation of my being. I love to read. And I am a happier person when I read more, right? Because I've learned that reading has or does fulfill my need to learn about people without me actually having to talk to people. I also enjoy escapism, which is something that I thought was a negative thing about me, right? Like why do I want to escape so badly? But as a Black woman that also happens to be a nerd, there are a lot of reasons why I don't want to be in America in the realm that I live in. But I enjoy escapism. To me, reading is like time travel. I feel like every time I open a book, I'm going to a different world, with different people, with different sets of skills and environments and languages and quirks and things like that. And that is fascinating to me, right? Because the way that I read is I can't even say it's like watching a movie. It's more like what's the virtual reality. It's more like that in my mind, because I really be in these books. You can't tell me that I'm not there. And sometimes it takes me a while to detach from them. Which is also interesting to me, because it's made me learn or led to me researching things about how our minds not only handle the things that we read, but how it handles memories and things like that, so on and so forth. So what I'm trying to say here is you have to want to read. You have to want to, right? You have to have that want. You have to have that curiosity. And that is why the people that do read all the time read a lot, because they have the want to read, right? So that is very, very important. That is the first and foremost thing. You have to want to read. You have to want to. I have been the type of person to sink into a book since I was a kid. There were plenty of times where I was a teenager. My mom would leave for work, like the summers. She would leave for work and she would come home and she would be like, "What you reading now?" And I had gone through 2-3 books in a day. That is how I've always been. And as I've gotten back into reading, I am getting back to that, right? I've had to work my reading stamina back up a bit, because there were years where I just wasn't reading, where I was maybe reading 1 or 2 books a year, versus now where I'm reading 50 to 75 books a year. The big thing is you have to want to read. Okay. I will say that I think a lot of people like the idea of reading. I think reading a lot implies this level of, education, or this I'm so smart type thing, that people aspire to. And I'm here to tell you that you don't have to read a lot to be smart. You don't have to read a lot to be smart. Some of the smartest people you know probably don't have formal education. And I also think being smart is subjective. People can be book smart. You can be street smart. You can be smart in the terms of art. You can be smart in a lot of different ways. I just feel like a lot of people these days want to read because they think that it's what they're supposed to do, and they don't really like it. And you don't have to like reading. Okay, so that's the first part. The first part is you have to want to read, right? You have to want to read, and you don't have to be smart just because you read a lot. Okay, like you don't have to fit into this thing. That is the first thing. That's it. You have to want to read, and you have to want it for yourself. You have to have the interest. You have to have the curiosity. You have to want to do it, and not to do it because you see other people doing it, because you think, and I'll just use myself as an example. Oh, Shelby seems so cool, and it's so cool that she reads a lot, and I want to be like her, so I'm going to read a lot. That's not how that works, baby. And you might want to talk to your therapist about that, okay? Now that we got that out of the way. 2, How do I personally read a lot? I make time to read all the time. I make time to read. So there is not a day that doesn't go by, unless like I'm really, really busy or I don't feel good, where I'm not reading. Even if it's a couple of pages. Even if it's a couple of pages. I've had to learn that, especially with this being a part of my job, right? I've had to learn that sitting down to read doesn't mean that I need to sit and read 100 pages. Sitting down to read for today could mean that I only read 2 pages. Sitting down to read today could mean I only listened to an audiobook for maybe an hour. Reading daily isn't about setting a goal, and I've had to learn that, right? I find that setting page goals and doing that sort of thing takes the joy out of reading for me. And that's a different conversation. That's a bit of a different conversation. But every day for me is not a day where I'm like, oh, I sat down and I read 150 pages, right? For a lot of different reasons. I could be tired. I could not really be enjoying the book. I could want to watch TV. I could want to do other things, right? But I make time to read every day. I also swap out a little bit of my screen time for reading. So if I find myself in a space where I'm not doing anything and I'm just scrolling TikTok aimlessly, I'm not creating content, I'm not editing videos, I'm not working on orders or anything like that, and I'm just whatever, I'll be like, oh, I could pick up a book instead. So you have, it kind of ties in with the first one where you have to want to read, but you also have to make the time for it. Like, just because you buy the books, like, they're not going to read themselves. They're not going to read themselves. You have to actually, you have to pick them up and read them, friend. I'm sorry to tell you that you actually have to pick them up and read them. And don't be so hard on yourself if you can't make time. You have a life, you have mental health that you have to worry about. You have to, like, take care of kids. You got to take care of your mama and them. You got to eat. You got to go to the gym. You have to work out. You don't be so hard on yourself, because I know people look at me and they're just like, I don't understand how she reads so much. A lot of the times I'm sitting up till 3-4 o'clock in the morning, but I mean, my life is a little bit different because I have the luxury of working from home, right? So I can kind of read whenever. I understand my privilege, but that commute in the morning, you could be putting on an audiobook, right? If you have to take the train or whatever, you can bring your book on the train. You can read then. If you have any kind of downtime, like the baby's got to go to ballet, right? And you got to sit in a car and wait. You could be reading then. Again, it doesn't have to look like, oh, I'm sitting down and reading a bunch of whatever, you know, I'm reading a bunch of pages, whatever. You have to make the time. Another thing that I want to cover is number 3, formatting, right? So reading is reading. I don't want you to feel like in order for you to read a lot of books that you only have to read small books. In order for you to read a book, that they have to only be physical books, right? I think one thing that I want to do to make people feel more comfortable is to be more transparent about the formats in which I'm reading books, because majority of my books are physical books. But I can finish an audiobook, like an 8-hour audiobook, in a day. Because if I put it on while I'm cleaning, while I'm out running errands or whatever the case may be, I can get through it faster, right? You have to find the format for reading that works for you. Not everybody can sit and read a physical book, right? I know my best friend, for example, she always says if you give her a physical book, she's gonna fall asleep, right? I feel like that's just because she hasn't been able to find the right book. But anyway, you have to find the format that works for you. I know for me, I can't listen to every audiobook. I listen to audiobooks faster. I speed them up, not to get through it faster, but because that's just how my mind works. If the talking is too slow, I get away, so I speed it up. You have to find the format that works for you. I can't do ebooks, right? It just, because for the way that my mind works, I can easily just go back to Instagram or TikTok. It's like temptation for me. So never mind the fact that I just love a physical book, right? I love the feel of them. I love when they have like good flop to them. I love to smell the pages, the ink on the paper. I love that whole experience. Excuse me, but I also know that sometimes I need the audiobook, right? If I'm busy, whatever. So find a format that works good for you. Maybe find multiple formats that work good for you. That will aid in you reading faster. Because when you're comfortable, when you are reading in a way that feels good to you, when you have like it, all of that contributes to you reading more. Okay. What was that? Was that number 3 or number 4? I don't know. Next, read things that are genuinely interesting to you. Don't read the stuff when people are like, oh, and I know I'm guilty of posting this, of being like, oh, why haven't y'all read these books yet, right? Or here are my, like, you must read these books, right? Read things that genuinely sound interesting to you. I used to be in the habit of, oh, such and such said I should read this, so it's probably good, and not liking the book, and it taking me forever to finish the book because I didn't really like it, right? And there are going to be hit or misses, right? There are going to be things that you be like, oh, that did sound good, but I don't like the writing, right? Oh, that did sound good, but the synopsis was different than what the story gave me, so I didn't, whatever. Pick up things that are genuinely interesting to you. Your whole reading life will change. It'll change. Now, this includes reading diversely and reading outside of your norm, right? Because you could pick something up by an author that you would have never thought you enjoyed. My mom is the perfect example of this. She probably would have never read fantasy on her own, but I introduced her to it, and she's like, oh, I like these things. I like to watch them on TV, but listening to them too has been interesting also as well. Pick up things that you're like, I may have never read this, but it sounds interesting to me. Okay? So read things that sound genuinely interesting to you, but also read diversely. Those two things are very, 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 very important. Okay? And then last, but certainly not least, baby, if the book ain't good, don't finish it. Baby, if the book is not good, don't finish it. I know you spent your hard-earned money and whatever. Something that I say that I don't think people really feel the gravity of is, I'm not buying books for present day Shelby. I'm buying books for Shelby in the future. Okay? Because I could buy something right now and it's not for this version of myself, and that is okay. Shelby in a month or 2 or 3 or a year or 2 or 3 will love this book. Will love this book. Okay? So if it's not good, if you can't, like, if picking it up is making you go, ugh, I gotta go back with these characters. I gotta go sit and listen to such and such go on and on and on. There are many books that I've hated the main character. And I'm like, I'm not going to finish this. Here. Tamara Hall's book, As the Wicked Watch. Y'all can't even see it. Baby, the main character was so, like, I'm like, is the book about the murder or is the book about her? What are we doing here? But I didn't finish it. Or did I? I don't know. This one's a good one. Luster. This right here. Hated it. Did not finish it because the main character annoyed the hell out of me. Now, I may read this book again a year from now. I may pick it up and be like, I doubt it, but I may pick it up and be like, oh, wow. This is amazing. It's okay to put the book down. It's okay to not like it. It's okay it doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you any less of a, like, get that out of your head. Just don't finish it. There's so many other good books out there to read. That you'll be okay. All right. And I think that's all that I have. I hope that this helps you find a little bit more comfort in reading. I hope you know that whether you read one book this year or whether you read 150 books this year, that is a feat. It is an accomplishment. You did a thing, and I'm proud of you. You don't have to do these things just because people want you to, or you feel like you should, as this like personality trait. Do I personally judge people that don't read anything? Like, if I come in your house and ain't no books in your house, am I looking at you a little sideways? Yeah, because like it ain't a magazine, a cookbook, a manual of some sort in here. Nothing. But, and also, that's okay, right? I just have certain standards because I read, and I've always been in houses where books are everywhere. In my family, you go into one house, there are usually books everywhere. So I hope that you understand that reading is reading, and that you don't have to make this your personality if it is not. It's okay if it's not your personality. It's okay. So if nobody has told you today, I love you. Leave in the comments any tips you have for someone that wants to read more. And I think this kind of covers it. Maybe if I come up with some more, maybe I'll do a part 2. But I think we've got it covered. I think what I will do though is do a video on how I track my reading and why that is important to me and how I set my reading goals. So if y'all want to see that, let me know. But I love you. Bye, friends.